Good morning, boys and girls. We are on page 8, lesson 2, problem set. For number 3, it asks you to use the coordinate plane to answer the following questions. So right here, we have a coordinate plane. That is what it is called. It is called, this line right here, the green line, is called an x-axis, and the line that goes up and down is called the y-axis. This is important because the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate is going to tell us where things are located. So for example, I think I'm going to highlight it so you can see it clearly. So this is my y-coordinate. I'm going to highlight that in pink, and then my x-coordinate, I'm going to highlight it in green so that you can clearly see what I'm doing. So the first thing it asked me to do is figure out where is the smiley face located. And I am going to look over here on my x-axis because it asked me to look at the x-coordinate. So I'm going to move along on my x-coordinate, and it stops at the number 2. That's where my smiley face is located, right? So I'm going to put number 2 for the x-coordinate. Now the y-coordinate, it's asking me how many times is it going up for the y-coordinate. So looking over here, and I can kind of line up with another piece of paper. So right here is the x-coordinate, and it stops at 2. So I wrote 2. Now the y-coordinate for the pink, it stops at 1, okay? So I'm going to write the number 1. So if I were to go on my x-axis over 2 times and then go up 1, I would find my smiley face. It gives me the exact location where my smiley face is. And that is the whole point of the coordinate plane, to identify where the plots are. So the next one I have is the diamond. I'm going to look for the diamond. Diamond is all the way over here. So it asked me for my x-coordinate. So I'm going to look at the green for the x-coordinate, and it looks like it stops at 2. So I go all the way over and I stop at the diamond, and it stops at 2. So I'm going to write 2 again. But my y-coordinate, I want to go all the way up and stop right here. I don't see a number on the side, but remember I told you that all numbers and fractions are divided in a certain way. So we're going to count how it's divided. It's divided into 1, 2, 3, 4. See that? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 before it stops at the whole number. So that means that this one is 1/4. This line is 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 is the 1. That's very hard to see. But knowing that, I know that above 1/2, I'm going to have 3/4. So this line is at 3 and 3/4. I'm going to write that down. 3 and 3/4. That's my y-coordinate. Because it is before 4, notice the diamond is not there, but it is after 3 and 1/2. So right there is going to be 3 and 3/4. Now I'm going to locate the sun. So the sun, I'm going to see where is the sun. I see it right here. It was on the line. So they're asking me, what is the x-coordinate in green? So it's actually right at 0. If you see right there on the bottom, the line is right at 0. So I'm going to write 0 for my x-coordinate, and then my y-coordinate. Where is it on the y-coordinate? The pink line. So if I were to go all the way up, it stops at the same place. It stops at 3 and 3/4. So I'm going to write again, 3 and 3/4. Okay? And now I'm going to identify the heart. The heart is on the x-axis. So when I look at the x-coordinate, what I'm going to write, I'm passing 1.5, passing 1, 1 and 1/2, 2, 2 and 1/2, 3, 3 and 1/2, and right there. It's right after 3 and 1/2. So again, it is at 3 and 3/4. So my x-coordinate is 3 and 3/4. And am I going up any? No, I'm not going up on the y-axis at all. So my y-coordinate is going to be 0. Okay, now I'm going to move on to problem B. For problem B, it asked me to name the shape whose coordinate, let me fix that. Name the shape whose x-coordinate is 1/2 more than the value of the heart's x-coordinate. So I'm going to look for the coordinate that is 1/2 more than the value of the heart's x-coordinate. So I'm going to look for the heart. And earlier we found out that the heart is at 3 3/4. Okay, we're looking for 1/2 more than the value for the x-coordinate. Is that what it's asking? Name the shape whose x-coordinate, so this x-coordinate is 1/2 more than the value of the heart's coordinate. Oh, okay. So we're going to go over, and we're going to go over 1/2. So if I were to move 3 3/4, and I add 1/2, I'm going to be able to get my next coordinate. Okay? And that is going to be at 4 1/2. So when I add 3 3/4 plus 1/2, I'm going to get 4 1/2. Wait, not 4 1/2. Let me add that together for you guys to see. So 3 3/4, I'm going to multiply this side times 2, and then I'm going to add 3 3/4 plus 2/4 is going to give me 3 5/4, which is going to be the same as 4 1/4. Because you're adding your 4/4 over, so that gives you 4 1/4. So that is my coordinate right here, 4 1/4, which is my star. So I'm going to write down the star. Now, for problem C, it asks you to plot a triangle at 3/4. I'm going to have to zoom out a little so you guys can still see the chart. So plot a triangle at 3/4. 3 and 4. So remember, my x-coordinate is always going to be on this side. So this is my x-coordinate. And my y-coordinate is always going to be the second one. So remember x, y. So 3 is going to be the x. So that means I'm going on the green line of the 3. And then my y-coordinate is 4. So I'm going up 4. And I'm going to plot a triangle at 4. So 4 is all the way right here. So that's where my triangle is going to be. Now the next one asks you to plot a square. So I'm going to plot a square. It says 4 3/4 is my x-coordinate. And my y-coordinate is 5. So that means that from left to right, I'm going to move 4 3/4. So I'm moving 4 3/4. I have 4 right here. And then 3/4 is right here. So this is where 4 3/4 is. Now I need to move up 5 times. So I'm going to move all the way up to the number 5, which is all the way at the end right here. And they want me to draw a square. So I'm drawing my square. Okay. Now plot an x at 1/2. So next I'm going to plot my x at 1/2. My x-coordinate is 1/2 and my y-coordinate is equal to y. Okay, so I'm going to go to 1/2. So I have 1/2 right here, and my y-coordinate is 3/4. So this is my x and my y is 3/4. And remember I told you that 3/4 it's divided here. I don't know why my phone is ringing. I'm so sorry, you guys. Let me turn off the volume. So we have 1/2 and 3/4. We stopped at 1/2, and then we're moving up to 3/4. And remember that plot right there is going to be a letter X. Okay? So those are my coordinates. Now I'm going to move on to the next problem for problem number 4. Problem number 4 asks you the question, the pirate's treasure is buried at the X on the map. How could a coordinate plane make describing its location easier? So if you notice this location, this plane helps you figure things out easier. So a coordinate plane would make describing its location easier by giving an exact location for the X. Drawing an x-axis and y-axis could make a scale and describe the position x. So for an example, let's say this palm tree is going to be my origin or the starting point, okay? So I'm going to draw my y-axis. And then I'm going to draw my x-axis. Okay, so that means if I were to label this and the top, I can kind of set where it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say these are in inches, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I can say that on the x-axis it is at 3, and on the y-axis it is at 4. And that makes it easier to find a location.